everybody. Welcome to another episode of Paranormal Addicts, Season 3, Episode 21. As usual, I'm your host, Kent, and today we have a guest that I've actually been looking forward to since I scheduled it. We have Bishop James Long. Bishop, thank you for taking your time to join us.
Yep.
We'll start out just with a couple of questions so people who don't know you can get to know you a little bit better. So, for those who are not familiar with your work, tell us a little bit about yourself and your ministry.
Yeah, so I studied for the Roman Catholic priesthood for 6 years. I knew I wanted to be a priest when I was 5. When I was 9, I remember picking up my first book on demonology. And so I continued, reading and studying, and then went to the seminary in the Roman Catholic Church, received my minor orders, graduated from undergraduate school, and then went to graduate school. And then the last year of my graduate school, God was calling me to go to the Old Catholic, and I did not know what that meant. Because in the Old Catholics, we don't receive a salary stipend. We're not giving a paycheck. We receive no compensation. We do this ministry 100% free. We fund it with our own money. I didn't know how to do that, but I said, okay. And so I decided to go down this path, and here I am today.
So one thing has always stood out to me about you is that, unlike a lot of clergy, you actually support the paranormal field. Why do you think some clergies distance themselves from the paranormal field, and why do you support the paranormal field?
Well, I've been in the paranormal field for 35 years. That was the first time I investigated a location, Waverly Hills, in Louisville, Kentucky. And so when I went public with my ministry, I really didn't want to go public. I wanted to stay private, but I had a lot of friends at that time that were in the paranormal community, and they asked me to go public, and so I did. But I realized very quickly, without receiving a salary or a stipend, it's pretty. I don't have my own private plane, so I can't hop on a plane and go to California on a whim. So I knew at that time I needed to create some type of organization where I would reach out to paranormal teams that are credible, that don't think everything is a demon, that doesn't want to take advantage of people's pain and suffering and emotional, spiritual trauma. And so I have to create a network, because at that time there was no Facebook and all that other stuff. We communicated through Yahoo groups, GeoCities. That's how we communicated. And so I knew at that time I needed help, because I could not be in all these locations. And so if I had a case in California, I needed to find a team in that area that could go investigate, gather all the information, and then present it to me. And then based on the evidence, I would determine whether or not I need to go to California, find a way to raise money to get there. So that's why I started this network at that time, Paranormal Clergy. The sole purpose was to find teams in every single state. Sometimes in big states, I need 3 or 4 teams in California and multiple teams in Texas. And so that's why I did. I started the Paranormal Clergy to eventually give it to the laity so that they could start running it, because that was the goal. But that's why I work with teams all throughout the entire ministry, because they have helped me so much in determining if I need to use my own personal funds to get to a location. And so that's why I absolutely, I am supportive of paranormal teams that do not take advantage of people, and that truly want to try to debunk the activity. And if they can't, then they get clergy involved.
I understand that. That's how me and my team operate. I just reshared your older video last week on my team page, the one with you for encouraging the paranormal investigators. So that actually means a lot to me, and I'm sure a lot of the other investigators. So, where do you think the biggest disconnection is between the church and the paranormal community?
Well, when you say the church, now, of course, with the Roman Catholic Church, the Orthodox Church, the Old Catholic Church, so it just depends on which church. But I think in general, I think there's such a conception that all the paranormal teams out there are communicating to demons, that they're doing witchcraft, that they are participating in divination, that things of this nature. And while there are teams that are doing this, no question about it, no ifs, ands, or buts, I don't work with those teams, and I don't want to work with those teams. I want to work with teams that specifically look at the evidence and gather the evidence, and not try to do any type of provocation or anything that's going to cause the activity to amplify. They are there to investigate. That's it. I don't want them doing anything else, investigating and then submitting the information to me. But look, I've been in the field for a long time. So there are a lot of paranormal teams out there that are just trying to get a television show. At one time, it was terrible. When the television shows first started, oh my gosh, it was cutthroat. It was ridiculous. I mean, people were doing everything and anything to get on television. And that was hard to find teams that were legitimate at that time.
Paranormal investigating isn't all fun and games. Investigators sometimes encounter situations that are emotionally, mentally, or spiritually challenging. How important is it the investigator understands the reality before they enter into the field?
How is it important for what now?
How important is it that an investigator understands the dangers of the emotional, spiritual dangers of paranormal investigating before they get started?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. What troubles me greatly is you have paranormal teams who get involved with demonic cases, and they have no idea what they're doing. None. And they're not only that, but then now there are teams out there that are working these cases that have no connection at all with legitimate clergy who are trained in demonology. And you have teams that claim to have a demonologist who really has never worked a demonic case in their life. They claim they have, but they haven't. And then because you can clearly see some of the things that they do is just very irresponsible, putting everybody at risk. And so the teams that I work with, they are very aware that what they're working with can be quite dangerous, especially if it's a legitimate demonic case. And they understand their consequences, and that those consequences can be pretty severe. I don't understand why people are so obsessed with demonic cases. You got to be very careful with that, because that can be demonic influence. And before you know it, you're walking into a location that it's a way above your head, and now you're in serious trouble. And you try to reach out to clergy, and you have crackerjack box clergy members who watch a YouTube video. Now they claim to be exorcists, and they're going to put everybody I would strongly encourage people to stay away from demonic cases unless you're working specifically with clergy.
I agree. I mean, most of the people we see, especially the YouTubers that run around and everything's a demon, they're not qualified to make that qualification. And if they ever actually ran into a real demon, they would pee their pants and run away. So it's dangerous because they make the situation worse. If they're doing a residential case, they're going to make it worse instead of better. So yeah. So if you're not trained, stay away.
Right.
Okay. So most people have heard the word possession, but they don't really understand what it means. Lorraine Lauren, they talk about the four phases of possession, but there's actually 5. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, there's always the I'm promoting this thing here on your thing here, but there's always that demonic infestation, oppression, possession. But what people, they kind of messed up a little bit on that, because the infestation stage is one thing, but then you have demonic oppression and demonic obsession. So when you have demonic oppression, demonic obsession, oppression is when it begins to physically attack you, and it's breaking down the will of the person. And then demonic obsession is when it begins to attack the intellect. So you actually hear it. You can actually hear it. It speak to you. And the purpose of that is to break down the intellect. So the will and intellect are eradicated. And people kind of say, yeah, we know. But you got to understand that that's a process. That's a torment. It is horrible when a person's will has been completely eradicated, that they can't fight anymore. They just can't fight. It's past sleep deprivation, biting, scratching, pinching, the psychological terror, the physical exhaustion. And then, of course, you have the intellect. So on top of it's trying to break the will down, it's trying to break the intellect down. And you really think you're going absolutely insane. You isolate yourself. You hear its voice. It's terrible. And then when the person just is at a point where they can't fight anymore, that's when you have possession. So, but that's a process. You know, a lot of people talk about, well, they're fine 1 minute, and then 30 seconds later, now all of a sudden they're magically possessed. Sure you are. Sure. Sure you are. Absolutely.
Exactly.
And I was friends with Lorraine. I did not know Ed. I didn't get to meet Ed, but I was friends with Lorraine. Lorraine, you know, I talked to her quite often about some of her cases, and I'm convinced that there were some cases that were absolutely 100% legitimate, no question.
I never got to meet either one. I began my journey into the paranormal in 1986.
Very good.
So I was 12 years old. I was born with, I consider them gifts from God now. At 5, 6 years old, I didn't particularly consider them gifts, but you know, I see things in dreams, and so at 12, I made the conscious decision that instead of being afraid, I needed to learn to use my gifts. So, and one thing people don't really understand about 1986, we didn't have ghost hunters, ghost adventurers, ghost brothers, ghost dogs, ghost neighbors, ghost, you know, we didn't have any of that. We had Robert Stack, one Friday a month on Unsolved Mysteries would do the unexplained. That's what we had. And other than that, we had the library. So I went and checked out every book I could. Of course, obviously, most of the material you could actually reasonably get at the Paducah and McCracken County Library was Ed Lorraine's books. Yeah. So I read every one of them. I started writing to Ed, and he would actually write me back. We became pen pals. And I actually have a letter. It's right behind me, but you can't see it because my big head's in the way. But I actually have a letter on the wall behind me that's actually from Ed, and it's basically just encouraged me to continue my journey and reach out to him if I need any help. So that means a lot to me.
Sure.
You know, I know for some reason nowadays a lot of people want to jump with them. You know, they were figuring things out back then. They didn't have everything we had back then. Maybe some of it was a little bit exaggerated, but like you said, some of it wasn't. So, you know, we wasn't in their shoes, so we can't judge them.
Well, I think a lot of people do that also for clout. So, because the fact of the matter is now, especially now, people who do not have any type of content, what their content now is trolling. That's their content, is to troll and to attack people because they have no other content. And so that really is pretty sad when we are now at a society where we applaud or we follow people who troll. That's not content, that's evil, that's cruel, that's cruelty. So that's what many people do now, is their content is trolling. And it's like, boy, that really is adding so much to society today, isn't it?
Yeah, that's just like, you know, people like to throw around the word pure unity. And there's no pure unity,
No.
Unfortunately. So, okay, at what point of the position of the 5 steps, when do you usually get involved? I know you like to get involved as early as possible, but when do you usually get the call?
Usually when people, most of the time it's the infestation. So you have, people are terrified. They are legitimately frightened. They're having activity occurring They are afraid. They're hearing the growls. They're smelling the sulfur. The animals are terrified. It starts eventually, slowly, sometimes getting into the oppression. And when it begins to interact with them physically, that's when it amplifies times 100. That's when it's like, okay, you got to get here right now. But it's most of the time it's infestation. The problem is when we're well into infestation, oppression, and then obsession, when we're well into that stage, that's when things can become very, very difficult, because it's a process. For me to get involved with a case, it's not, I don't perform exorcisms on command. I performed 35 exorcisms on people who are truly possessed. I've blessed thousands of homes through the years, and I don't do these on command. So there's a process that people have to follow, and it's non-negotiable. And those are our rules, because I'm not performing an exorcism on someone who perhaps might have a mental illness that could cause extreme harm to that person. So there are things they must do. And if they're not willing to follow through, well, then I will not step foot. I won't continue. Really, I don't like getting involved with cases until after the teams have at least done investigation. That's important, not because I want to ignore people, because I don't want to feed into someone's, if they're in psychosis. I spoke to an exorcist, and he thinks that I could have. See, all they're hearing is he thinks I could have a demon. So I don't even really like having a conversation with the person until after I know what at least I'm dealing with. And that's, I talk to the paranormal team, go out, please go through the investigation, and then present the evidence to me. Based on that, then I kind of know where I want to take the conversation. That's important.
People often use the terms demonologist and exorcist interchangeably, but they're not the same thing.
No.
Can you explain the difference between the two and the qualifications for each?
Yeah, demonologist is not an exorcist. Let me make that abundantly clear. Demonologist has no business performing rituals that are strictly reserved for an exorcist, under no circumstances. As a matter of fact, that's how you can tell if someone is legitimately trained as a demonologist, or if they're just, finding their training in a crackerjack box. A demonologist has no business performing exorcisms, none. And that's very important. Now, an exorcist, by their very definition, is a demonologist, but really we refer to them as an exorcist, because the implication is already there that they are a demonologist. The implication by the term exorcist means that you've studied demonology. But a demonologist is an individual who has a calling from God to serve in this ministry, to work demonic cases, and to assist clergy. This is a calling. This is not something you choose. If you are choosing this, you need to stay away from it. It is a ministry. You cannot separate God. You cannot separate Christ. You cannot separate faith from demonology. It doesn't exist. And so people who are demonologists are performing rites that they have no business even reading. The solemn rite of exorcism says if you are not a validly ordained priest who's been trained in this rite, you have no business even reading it. And that is the rite. I didn't write it. We see the first form in 1614. So the rubrics, the rules are very clear. And you have people who are in the paranormal field who say they are demonologists, and they're reading the solemn rite of exorcism. Like, dude, what are you doing? You have no faculties. You're not a priest. You've not been given permission by a bishop to perform this rite. It's just, I'm not a shaman. So therefore, I have no business performing shamanic rituals. In the same manner that if a person is a demonologist, that doesn't mean they have faculties. Are they ordained? Are they trained? Who trained them in the solemn rite? So that's very, very important to understand. A demonologist is an individual who understands they have a calling from God to work this ministry and to assist clergy in helping families who are dealing with violent activity.
That's where I consider myself. I feel I have a calling. I'm trained. I'm educated. I actually have a degree in parapsychology, 2 in theology. I took demonology training through your courses and through other courses. But I understand I am not an exorcist. I understand that I do not perform exorcisms. If it's actually a demonic case, my first phone call is to somebody like you or another trusted clergy. I understand my role. So, but I think it's very important that I wanted you to get that out there so everybody could hear it, so they could understand the truth.
Yep.
Have you seen an increase in reports of alleged demonic? Let me try that again. Have you seen an increase in reports of alleged demonic activity over the past few years?
Demonic activity, yes. Exorcism, possession, no. So I have seen an increase in demonic activity. You know what frightens me a lot. With possession, it's one thing because you the parlor tricks, the levitation, the screaming, the multiple pitches. These are parlor tricks to try to intimidate you, and you kind of, after I've been doing this for so long, you it's not second nature, but you're aware that these things can happen, and so that just comes with the territory of being an exorcist. The thing that I'm more frightened by is people who go online and they say some of the most cruel things to other people, and they think it's fun. That to me is frightening. That is extremely sadistic. And I think we have got to, as a society, to say, now, wait a minute. We're living in a time where people are going online and they're saying some of the most horrible things about the person that they're watching on screen, and they think it's fun. That's sadism. That's not a normal behavior. That's very abnormal. And the fact that people can do that and put their head on the pillow at night and actually think it's fun, that is frightening, because serial killers also are sadistic. And so when you have the problem is people now have reduced trolling as a pastime, fun activity, and they're harassing people and causing so much emotional trauma by inflicting their words to try to hurt that person. Just think about this. That is demonic influence. You cannot call yourself a Christian and troll other people at the same time. It's not compatible. Because if you have the Holy Spirit within you, you wouldn't want to troll another person. But the fact that these people do this, and they have no conscience, their conscience is not saying, wait, but that's a problem. You shouldn't do this. That's frightening. I have never seen an increase in demonic influence in all of my life. And trolling is a symptom of demonic influence. Because when you use your words purposely to try to hurt another person, and then you sit back and you watch, and then you get excited, you actually enjoy inflicting emotional trauma against that person, that is exactly what demons do. There's no difference. And that is frightening.
So, what are some warning signs? Let me backtrack. What is one of the biggest misunderstandings people have about demonic activity?
What is the what?
What's one of the biggest misconceptions, misunderstandings people have about demonic activity?
Well, I think the biggest misconception is that they think it doesn't exist. Or they think it's just something that many times people say, well, it's just mental health issues. And so, yeah, there are plenty of cases where it's mental health. Absolutely. I mean, that's why we require psychological evaluation. It's non-negotiable. So if someone wants me to perform an exorcism on that individual, they are required. I will not speak to the person without having a psychological evaluation. That's required. So I think the biggest misconception is that it doesn't exist, or that perhaps it's all just mental health issues, and that to me is probably the biggest issue.
What are some warning signs that immediately makes this should be? What are some warning signs that an investigator should immediately take the case seriously, more seriously. That's one of the signs to look for. That maybe
Yeah, when you're dealing with demonic issues, I always tell people, if you really truly want, you can buy the most expensive equipment in the world. You can have, I mean, and some of these, look, some of the equipment I have to admit, it's pretty interesting. They're pretty interesting. But the best equipment that you're ever going to have, ever, is your sixth sense. Because your sixth sense will tell you something is wrong here. It's time to leave. When you walk into a location that is known to have demonic activity, your body everything is screaming at you to leave, to walk away, that this is not the place where you need to be. You need to go. And I think all of us have that. And so sometimes people try to suppress that because they want to get excited. They want to get that evidence, or try to, that many years ago, they were trying to get on television, get a television show. But I think the absolute best tool that you can ever use is your sixth sense. Because when you walk into a demonic infestation, you don't need to guess. There's no such thing. You don't have to guess, I wonder if there is, or let's call in a psychic, or you don't need that. Your body will tell you this is not right. It's time to get out of here. So I always tell people that you can have the most expensive equipment in the world, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when your body tells you it's time to get out of here, and it's time to get out of here now, that's what you need to do. And so that's what I tell people. Use your sixth sense and listen. If your body is telling you to go, do not push it. Because if you continue to push it, you're going to get yourself in trouble. Stay away from it. So that's the best advice I can give people. First of all, stay away from demonic cases unless you're really, truly prepared to work them. And then if your body tells you to leave, then don't do it. Don't go into that building or home, whatever it might be.
Okay, so one thing that I stress on this show and in my other paranormal ventures is continuous education is extremely important.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, look, when you're dealing with demonic, there are signs of demonic infestation. There are signs of oppression. There are signs of, I mean, there's a lot. Are you asking me specifically what are the signs to look for possession?
I'm asking what's something that if they investigate. I mean, you answered the question. I mean, okay. What should an investigator be looking for when they see if something was probably demonic? And you said your sixth sense will tell you. And I think that's
and infestation as well. I mean, you can have the smell of sulfur. You can have the smell of rotten flesh. Animals are terrified. Sometimes the knockings of three is a mocking of the Trinity. Religious objects are desecrated. So these are quite common. There will be objects that will be moved, but they'll be moved with a purpose. So they're not moved just to say, "Hey, look at me." That they're moved, and you're the target. So there's the intent behind this. Versus if you go into a location and something is moved and it's not thrown across the room, you're not the target, just something simple, a plate moves or a cup moves or something of this nature. That's radically different than the cup being thrown at you or the crucifix being thrown off the wall. Those are two different scenarios.
So if somebody wanted to further educate themselves on demonology, what would your recommendations be?
Well, see, it depends, because let's say that what are they wanting to, if they're wanting to go into the field because they want to learn demonology and then proceed to theology for become clergy. So let's just say they want to be a demonologist. That's what their goal is. They feel like God is calling them. I would absolutely find clergy who are involved in the field. That's number one. You've got to find somebody who is legitimate, that doesn't scream demons 24/7. That their goal is to try to debunk the activity, and you need to learn. You cannot separate theology from demonology. It doesn't exist. It's like being half pregnant. Either you are or you're not. So you have to study theology. You have to study angelology. So you have to have the basic foundations of what's the nature of demons, what's the nature of angels, what is the hierarchy of angels, and that's absolutely crucial. And so you cannot separate theology, angelology, from demonology. So I would strongly suggest that people, you work cases, but you have to have a foundation first, and your foundation must be from a theological perspective. So learn from sources. For example, if you're an intellect, well, then Thomas Aquinas, the Summa Theologica, has a great section there on angels. Find clergy that are trained, that talk about and teach about demonology. I have several books. People can buy those books. And the profits, by the way, for anyone, the profits from the books goes to the MKS Kids Foundation. There's an orphanage that we sponsor. But even if it went to me, it's my right. I own the books. I wrote them. They belong to me. But we choose as a community to donate those funds to the MKS Kids Foundation. So find credible sources from clergy who are trained. And I'm talking validly trained. Be very careful, because there are many clergy that like to tag on exorcist. And then you start digging in. It's like, look, where did you get your training? Do you have accredited degrees? Have you had any formation? Do you have a church that's endorsing you? Those are important questions.
Yeah, I agree. And that's another one of those questions I just wanted to get out there. I want people to understand. I can't just be like, wake up the next day and be like, oh, I'm a demonologist now. I actually know somebody who did that. So they just decided on their own, hey, I'm a demonologist. And I'm like, well, that's interesting, because I studied and have 2 degrees in theology, and it took me years to be. And you just decided after a year in the paranormal field, hey, I'm a demonologist. Like,
right,
that works for you.
And what drives me also, what's concerning to me, is when I've talked to people also who say that they are demonologists, and then I ask them, well, what is your prayer life like? And then they say, well, I mean, whenever I have time. What? You are working demonic cases, and you just said to me, whenever you have time, as if God is an afterthought. Stay away from those cases. You have no business working them, because demons will eat your lunch. If your prayer life must be absolutely spot on, that must be a priority, not an afterthought. If you do not have a structured prayer life, a deep love for God, and an understanding of theology, then you stay away from these cases, because that to me is sacrilegious. That, I think, that's blasphemy, because you're basically, people are trying to cut line, and they have no relationship with Christ. Well, then who are you going to call upon? Buddha? Buddha's not going to help you in demonic cases. Sorry, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. I mean, the only name that works is Christ. That's it. Jesus, that's the only name. So if you're going to invoke the Buddha, well, good luck to you. So the prayer life for a demonologist must be very, very solid. It has to be strong. It has to be a priority. Prayer life has to be a priority for not only certainly an exorcist, but for a demonologist.
All right. So the next round is just a fun round. I do it with every guest. It's my speed round. It's just 10 questions. Some of them may not be relevant to you. Just first thing that comes to your mind, answer.
Oh, that could be scary.
Go-to investigation snack.
Okay. Oh my God, where I want to investigate?
What snack do you take when you investigate?
I'm sorry, what?
Snack.
Probably something protein, a protein bar.
Haunted doors, fact or fiction?
Oh, 100% fact. I have several. It's in the Legion of Exorcists show.
Favorite paranormal show?
I don't really watch them, but I guess maybe the Legion of Exorcists. There we go.
Coffee or energy drink?
Energy drink.
If you could investigate with anyone, living or deceased, who would it be?
Well, I mean, I'm going to take the big J. I'm going to take Jesus. Come on, let's go.
That's a
I
good
mean,
answer. I've never
oh,
had that answer before, but that's a good one. Ouija board, game, tool, or portal?
absolutely 1,000,000%. It is a portal.
I knew you was going to say that.
Yeah.
I took your classes. Bucket list location you would like to investigate?
I don't really have any.
I think it's interesting that your first investigation is probably 99% of people's bucket list location, and that's
Yeah, Waverly Hills.
Yeah, and I've actually investigated Waverly Hills 8 times. So I mean, it's an interesting place. I mean, I honestly prefer to do residential cases because that's why I do this. But
Me too.
I look at going to those locations. I look at that as training for my team.
I agree, and I think for me. That's if I had a bucket list, it would be definitely for someone who is legitimately going through demonic issues and they are terrified. That would be my bucket list because I want to help, because that's why I'm doing ministry. Yeah.
Demons, fact or fiction?
It's fact. Yeah.
Protection or no protection?
As if people need to pray for protection?
Do they need to have protection when they go into an investigation?
I would hope so. Yeah, absolutely.
What are you listening to on your way to an investigation?
Mm-hmm. Usually, maybe John Denver or classical Vivaldi.
Very long answer. I'm older than most people, so when I say what I usually listen to, people are like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, it's okay. They were big back in the day.
What do you listen to?
Beastie Boys.
Oh, I met the Beastie Boys many years ago. Actually, I'll tell you this. So my brother was a DJ in Louisville many years ago, and I got to meet Will Smith, Jazzy Jeff, Will Smith, Run DMC, and Flavor Flav when they came to Louisville for their concert. That was an interesting. It was an interesting meeting.
I can imagine that. I went hunting with because my uncle used to be the hunting guide for Grassy Lakes in Allen County, and so when celebrities would come, he didn't trust his usual staff, so me and my cousin would get to go with him. And most of the time, it was just like Hank Williams Jr.
Yeah.
But one year, for some reason, we got David Allen Coe, Hank Williams Jr., and Ozzie Smith in the same group.
Very good.
I was like, that's an unusual group. But, I mean, obviously David Allen Coe and Hank Williams Jr. kind of went hand in hand, but
yeah.
I don't know how Ozzie Smith got in there. But okay. So, what advice would you give someone just starting out in the paranormal field?
Find out. You really have to discover why you're there in the first place. If you're there to try to get on a television show, stay away from it. Stay away from demonic cases. Stay away from demonic cases. Be careful with them. Make sure if you are going to work with someone who's actually trained as a demonologist. Don't worry. Don't forget about trying to get famous and all that nonsense. Forget about that. Just if you're passionate about the paranormal, you're going to love it. You're going to love investigating. Keep that passion. Don't worry about paranormal shows. Don't worry about getting famous. Don't worry about any of that nonsense. Just focus on, learning the techniques, learning the tools, and staying focused on that.
So this ain't the question I got, but I go off script. It's my show. So we talked earlier about about trusting Jason McCray said, "Good evening, gentlemen. Hope you are both doing well. It's my favorite Canadian. Jason, we're doing okay."
Hello.
So anyway, so we talked about using our sixth sense. So do you think investigators nowadays rely too much on equipment instead of their own sixth sense?
No, I don't think so. I think because for me, as clergy, I need to have that evidence because the sixth sense, it's hard to objectify this. It's hard to decipher. Well, what does that mean? You know, it's what you feel. It's feelings. You know, one person can feel this, the other person can't. So for me, I don't look at a case based on a person's gut feeling. I look at a case on show me the evidence. What does the evidence show? Show me the EVPs. Do we have what are the REM pods? Do we have EMF? All I need to see. Do you have baseline readings? What are the readings when you started praying? So for me, I need to have those. That helps me. The gut feelings when people say I just had that feeling, that helps. But as far as do I make a decision based on that? No. I gotta have solid. You know, show me what you have. The evidence using the tools. That is far more important to me than a gut feeling.
So this is how I investigate, Bishop. I trust my gifts, my abilities, my feelings, but I use them to guide me. And then I like to have the evidence, like you said, especially if I'm doing a residential, because it's a lot easier to go to a homeowner, to a family that's needing my help. It's a lot easier to go to them and be like, this is the EVP I captured. This is this is the apparition I call it. If I have that, it's a lot easier to go to a homeowner with that than it is, oh, well, my gifts are telling me this. The homeowner, they want answers, they want help. So to me, that's where the equipment comes in. And I got it all. I might not use all of it, but I got it all.
And what bothers me also is that immediately people go in and, I feel a demon in here. Stop that. Stop. People got to stop that because the problem is sometimes when people have activity in their home and the paranormal teams, they're not interested in debunking. They're interested in sensationalizing it to scare the heck out of the homeowner so then they can put it on social media. I don't like that. So I like teams that try to go in and to debunk the activity, to explain it. Because here's the problem, and it happens all the time. When paranormal teams immediately go into a location and start screaming demons, it is nearly impossible to change that person's perspective, the homeowner, because now they're so convinced that experts have come in and they have now these demons in their home. And that's happened so many times where they would send me the evidence. I'm like, well, there's nothing here, nothing. This sounds like demonic at all. So then I'd have to get another team to go out and investigate. And the homeowner's like, no, that one team said there's demons. I know there's demons. And it's like, oh, come on. So that's the problem. You have teams who've never studied demonology a day in their life, and they watch paranormal shows. And now they're going into people's homes and they're declaring, well, there's a demon in here. Well, how do you know? How do you know this? Where have you studied demonology? And so that's the problem. I don't like working with those teams because those teams make things a lot more complicated. And I'm not a fan of that type of behavior.
Yeah, so I got firsthand knowledge of that type of behavior. The same team that I mentioned earlier, the one that started on his own, he was a demonologist. He went to this. He was based out of Southeast Missouri. I'm not going to say what town, just Southeast Missouri. And for some reason, he decided to go down to outside Memphis to do a residential case. Okay, but what happened is he told this 85-year-old lady that she had 5 demons and 2 portals, and he couldn't do anything to help her. How did I know this? Because this lady, bless her heart, she tuned into my podcast. She's a regular viewer. She tuned into my podcast, and while I was interviewing who was my guest that day, she kept commenting. And finally, I was like, "Let me finish the podcast. We'll talk off air." And I was able to get her some help. But you don't do that. That's irresponsible. It
is, and a lot of times the reason is they do that is because they're trying to make a video to put it on social media. And so they're going to tell us, oh, it's a demon. Then now they have it all over social media that there's this alleged demon in this house. And then they tell the people, well, we don't know how to fix it. So see it, but it doesn't matter because they got what they want. And now they're walking. See, that to me is just so cruel. You don't do that. People should never, ever, never do that.
Yeah. one of the issues in the field nowadays is we have too many paranormal entertainers and not enough paranormal investigators.
Yeah.
You know, and you know that guy, the one that I talked about, we used to be friends, but the fact is, he don't just want to be on TV. He wants to be a producer. He wants to be Zach Baggins. That's what he. So that's how he investigates. There's locations that I investigated are some of my favorite locations, and he's actually banned from them for provoking and other stuff. And you know, so yeah. So what? Okay, so this is one of my signature questions I tend to ask everybody. So I have my own little catchphrase word that I use to describe the TV shows, all that. My word is parapop culture. So how has the parapop culture affected the paranormal field, both positively and negatively?
Well, I think a lot of people ask me about the shows. I think the shows can be positive because it lets people know that they're not alone. It lets people know that there are people from all ranges of life, all walks of life that have this activity, even socioeconomic status, no matter what it is. I mean, people from all walks of life. And I think that's a good thing. But I also think it's kind of it's a double-edged sword because the parapop kind of thing you're referring to, I don't see this as entertainment. So I understand people like to go to locations to investigate because it's fun. They enjoy it. They enjoy paranormal investigating. I don't do that. I'm not running around graveyards chasing ghosts. So not that I'm implying that that's either good or bad. That's not what I do. I work cases that are violent, and that's what I focus on. So, but I also understand, look, when I first started, 35 years ago, I investigated Waverly Hills. That was a lot of fun. I loved it. I had a lot of experience before I became clergy. I investigated a lot of places. My goal now is different than what it was before. What it was before, I just wanted to find out what is there any paranormal activity or anything ghost around or whatever it might be. And that's okay. But I have kind of moved out of that lane, if you will, and progressed into more of the violent cases. So that's what I do. That's what I'm focused on. It's helping families for some type of resolution for demonic cases. In a way, though, I miss the days where I just investigated for fun. Because, working demonic cases can take a toll. That was one time 420 pounds. I was 420 pounds because I was taking on all these cases and it was taking a toll on me. One of the hardest things being in this ministry is not so much working the demonic cases. The hardest thing that I've had to deal with is when people are begging me to come to their home and I tell them I can't afford to get there right now because I don't charge. And so that's the hardest thing that I've had to deal with.
And I think that's a good point. The don't charge you thing. Somebody posted a question on Facebook earlier. A team posted, is it okay for teams to charge a family to investigate?
No.
Yeah, exactly. My answer was no. And if a team does charge you, don't walk away, run away, because there's plenty of legitimate teams that will do it for free. It's a calling. If we're not in this to help people, we're in this for the wrong reason.
Yep.
That's just. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's how I feel.
What was the problem? Is you're charging for what? See the resolution. Well, if it's demonic, then how are you going to resolve it? So if you're going to charge people, and okay, now what? So now you got to get clergy involved. Are they going to charge? Now you're charging on top of that. So no. It's different if you go to the doctor, he gives you medicine, he takes care of his sickness. If you something of this nature, or you have a plumber, you have plumbing issues, they come out and they fix it. Well, this is not an exact science. So what are you charging for? Your time? I mean, that's the problem. Is how do you resolve it? And many times these people who go in and charge people, it's like, okay, no. I don't mess with those people at all because I've seen far too many people take advantage people suffering and stress and anxiety. And I'm like, I don't want anything to do with those teams.
Yeah, we won't ever charge. I have had to, unfortunately, limit my area, my service area.
Of course, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will only go 3 hours now.
No, I get it. I totally understand that. Yep.
And that bothers me because when I have a team calling, I have other teams that reach out to me. Can you do that? And it bothers me because I'm like, I know they need help, but I can't be the one. So
That's right.
So I try to help them find somebody else. Another legitimate team. Not someone that's going to tell them they got 2 portals or 5 demons.
Right.
Because I've been doing this a long time too, so I got a network of friends too. I got clergy that I got you, I got Father Bob Bailey, and then I got investigators that's been investigating a long time, like Aaron G. Thompson and other ones, so that's what you have to have. Like you in order to keep from getting burnt out and stuff like we talked about earlier, you have to have a support team, and you have to have God. I mean, if this is a calling, so if I'm not doing it because it's a calling, and I'm not talking to Him, how am I getting fed? How am I getting my energy?
Right.
So it's interesting. You mentioned kind of in passing earlier, investigating a cemetery. I actually have a kind of an unpopular opinion in the paranormal field. I am not a big investigate a cemetery person. I know some people, that's their thing. They love it, but this is my take on it, and you can agree or disagree. We'll discuss it after I give you my opinion. To me, a cemetery, nobody ever lived there. Nobody ever died there. So why would there be a spirit there? I understand sometimes people have experiences, and I never take away a personal experience. Your personal experience is your personal experience. So I've kind of explained this. I've been working on my own theory. It's called resident energy theory. And so my theory is, and it also works like with haunted objects, that kind of thing. Anything that you can't explain why there's activity. So a family, they go visit the grave. Sometimes it's a celebration, sometimes it's a sadness. But they go celebrate, they go visit the grave, and they all their energy is transferred. Transfer. And then, they share the intimate secrets, they share that. So at what point does that energy become entity of its own? And when can energy of its own that can mimic an intelligent haunting? So that's what energy, that's the Cliff Note version of the resident energy theory. But yeah, I'm not, like I said, if I could do a residential case every weekend, I'd be happy for me, not necessarily the homeowner, but that's my calling, is to help people. I don't really care about, I don't care about being on TV. I don't care about going to Alcatraz or whatever, I mean, just to help people. I think that's very important. Okay, Bishop, we're down to our last question. So tell everybody what you got going on. If they need help with a demonic case, how can they get a hold of you or somebody else? All that fun stuff.
Well, I am very, very busy with the online Bible studies that we do, the night prayer that we do, the presentation on Fridays. So if you need assistance, you can go to bishopjameslong.com and click on the paranormal link. Don't send me a message on TikTok. I have 19,000 messages on TikTok. And I have over 800 messages on Messenger on Facebook. So Don't send many messages there. It's best if you need assistance, go there. Then Father Mark, he'll reach out to you, and then they'll start the process that way. But that really is the best way to process this.
All right. I enjoyed the conversation, and we'll talk again soon. I mean, so that's soon. So, Bishop, thank you for joining us tonight. We truly appreciate you taking the time to be with us. And thank all of you for watching another episode of Paranormal Addicts Podcast. You can find Paranormal Addicts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon, YouTube, Podbean, and everywhere you podcast. Don't forget to check out my book, Don't Buy Generic Batteries, It's Probably Not a Demon. It's available on Amazon. If you want to have me as a guest on your podcast or at your event, contact Methodological Management. Join us next time live on August 3rd when our guest will be Shannon and Michelle Collins. Until then, stay courteous and live paranormal.